Hey everybody, welcome to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. My name is Reed with Best Made Videos. We are a wedding videography company based out of West Seattle, Washington, and I'm joined today by a new friend of mine who came bearing gifts and good drinks, which we can talk about, Rion McConnehey of My Perfect Bartender. And Rion, thank you so much for coming in. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, Reed, absolutely. No, thank you very much for having me. The fact, as I mentioned earlier, that I'm even on your radar was a big win for me. So I'm very happy to be here. My name's Rion. I'm a private bartender that does bar services for private events. I'm specialized in weddings. I love the wedding community, but I've done, remembrances. I've done fundraisers. I did the Puyallup Fireman's Ball. That was the most attractive event I've ever worked by far. That was pretty cool. Yeah, and just really here to kind of take care of all your bar needs for your big day. And I've been a bartender long time. Love the bar industry. I was raised in restaurants. Love everything about it. And decided about a year and a half ago to take a crack at this private thing. And it's been going really well. I get really good reviews. People seem genuinely happy. I'm happy with the services that I offer and at the price I offer. Keep all the insurance and all the licensing in check and everything. Make sure that you're safe and protected because, alcohol does have a big liability. So I do like to make sure that everybody's safe, but have a good time. And we find a good balance. We really do at My Perfect Bartender. It's been a great year and a half. I cannot complain.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. And like I said, you brought gifts and drinks.
I did. Well, it didn't feel right. Certain people have their specialties, and mine's alcohol. I asked you, Reed, what your drink was, and you said vodka soda. So I went and picked up some vodka soda. I'm not drinking vodka soda. I hate soda, but I'm drinking vodka Red Bull to give me a little pick me up. But yeah, no, it's absolutely my pleasure. I appreciate you letting me be here.
Well, awesome. I'm so glad. And I do think it's important to have, bartenders on here. I think alcohol, like you said, is such an important part of, weddings and events and all that kind of stuff. So how did you kind of get into, you said you were doing bartending for a long time before you went private. So kind of how did you were kind of saying off mic how you grew up in restaurants and everything?
Yeah. So I grew up in there, and I've done other types of work. A lot of people stay in restaurants and they kind of feel trapped because the money is good. I've tried other things, and I just always find my way back to the bar. That's just where I love. It's where I belong. It's what I do. So I was a bartender for a long time. And then, about 2 years ago, I'd done a couple private events, but I did a wedding for close friends of mine. What's up, Allie and RJ? And I was like, wow, I really like this. I really want to take a crack at this. I had some money saved up and did some research. And then I was actually super duper blessed. Something I kind of mentioned, off microphone was when we did that wedding, I worked closely with a mother-daughter duo with My Perfect Wedding Assistant. And you notice the names are similar. I'll get into all that. And so when I decided to start the business, I knew that friends aren't cheap. So I reached out to people. I was like, hey, can I take you out to drinks? Can I take you out to dinner? I just wanted to learn a lot more about the industry. And Rosalind and Ernestine over at My Perfect Wedding Assistant were so fantastic. And they welcomed me in. And it was the cheapest promo dinner. I've taken people out to dinner and drinks. They got 2 appetizers and a Mike's Hard Lemonade. And that's how our business transaction started. It was fantastic. And so they they recognized that I was a good bartender, and I recognized kind of their stability in the industry. So they taught me some stuff, and they kind of helped me build the website. She helped me get in with Howard over at the Seattle wedding convention, which I just had my own booth at this year. I was really proud of that. And so, they kind of showed me the ins and outs, and we work really closely together. And then the rest is kind of been history. Yeah, they've helped me book a lot of work. And then once I kind of got my feet on the ground, I started booking a lot of my own work, and then a lot of referrals and a lot of shaking hands and knocking on doors. And yeah, the rest is history. It's been fun. It's been a fun experience. I like this, but I like making people happy. That's one thing I really want anybody listening right now to know is that I love you, and I want you. Nothing's off the table. We'll get whatever you need. We will talk about budgets. I can help you prep a shopping list. We'll talk about equipment. I do venue consultations. That's one thing a lot of people don't think is when you find your venue, I will call your venue and I'll say, hey, my name's Rion. I'm the licensed bartender. That looks really good for you guys. It helps them get their deposit back a lot of times. And I say, hey, do you have a bar, or do I need to bring my bars? Do you have an ice maker? Do you have easy access to refrigeration, running water, just all these kind of little things that a lot of people don't think about. And I really just try and get to know all of that. And then I can convey that message to you, and we figure it out. Everything can be figured out. Everything can be figured out.
Yeah, because I do think like nowadays, and you see a lot online, and people want to like find a place and bring their own alcohol, or hey, can somebody have somebody set up stuff, or know somebody that could pour drinks or whatever. And there's so much more that goes into it. A, I mean, just logistically, and then B, also like you're saying, liability with having the licenses and things like that, right? I mean, talk about some things that people don't think about necessarily.
Well, absolutely. So what's you can, to serve at a wedding, most venues, all they really require, different venues have different things, but is a $10 banquet permit. You get that online, and what that does is basically allows you to serve alcohol to your guests. And what a lot of people think is like, to stay in budget, I'm budget friendly. I'm a budget guy myself, I don't knock that, but they're like, oh, we're going to have Uncle Jim bartend because it won't cost any money. And don't have Uncle Jim bartend. Uncle Jim might be great. He might have the best intentions, but Uncle Jim hasn't been doing this like I've been doing this. You don't have that liability with Uncle Jim's. Obviously a very broad term. You understand what I'm saying. But yeah, Uncle Jim doesn't have that liability. He doesn't have that insurance. He doesn't have that experience, and he doesn't know how to gauge the venues or help you make kind of a shopping list, or really even the most loving, confident Uncle Jim can't give you the confidence of what I've kind of done over time. And people, want to save money. And so like my rates are really low. The promo, I'm about to raise my prices like $50, but the promo I did for the Seattle Wedding Expo was $300. I'm really proud of that price. $300 gets me for the day, my insurance, full consultations. I'll help you build a shopping list. I'll do venue consultations. And then you get access to all my equipment. I have collapsible bars, tables, linens, beverage dispensers, keg equipment, all that kind of stuff. And so I just kind of pay that money, and just it alleviates so much stress just knowing that we will bring this bar. The bar will be good. It will be taken care of. I'll be there till the bitter end. We'll stay. We'll clean. Yeah.
Did you like the wedding show?
I loved the wedding show. Just because I like talking. I like meeting people. I like shaking hands. I love meeting other vendors. I love going to venues when venues have booths, and I don't try and promote myself. I just ask one question, one real honest question. Like, are your bartenders taking care of you? Are they taking care of the venue? Are they promoting safety while having a good time? And if the venue's in a lot, they're like, you know what? Our bartenders are great. And I'm like, that's fantastic. I hope that continues to go well. And then some venues kind of have to take that time, and they're like, maybe not, because you do hear a lot of these horror stories about bartenders, especially when you hire your friends, is they drink, they get drunk. They want to party. And it just, you hear these horror stories, people falling asleep in cars, this, that, the other thing. And, sorry, I got a little off topic from the thing, but, love the Seattle Wedding Show.
Cause we can talk about two things. One, I do have, stories as well, even seen with bartenders.
Please, but, love them.
But because what's, I think, interesting about you is you're somebody that has a lot of knowledge in bartending, right? Years and years. And now you're kind of making this transition now into weddings more so, and private events and stuff. So that's why I was just kind of curious, like what you thought is like an outsider now coming into the wedding show. We've done the wedding show for years, love it, love meeting people, but you thought that was good, and you felt like it was a good place to kind of display and talk to people?
It was a good place to display and talk to people and network a little bit, and then just meet a lot of potential clients. I booked a lot of work off of that event, and there were other bartending services available. One, I love Claire and Jan over at Party on the Rocks, but the other services that were there were a little more big scale, and they're a little more expensive, but that's fine because they bring. I shouldn't say they bring more to the table, but I kind of like where I'm at, whereas I am a one-man operation. I have 4 people. I've had over 200 people try and work for me. My team consists of 4 people. I trust them. I love them. They know who they are. I don't work with randoms. Not to say anybody else does, but it's just kind of nice being the little guy. But damn, what's the phrase? Like small fish, big pond, or big fish, small pond, or whatever. Yeah, for kind of that niche that I'm in, I'm happy, and I can deliver, and I can do good. And I'll give you kind of an example. When I was starting this business, I was reaching out to everybody, and I was just calling, and I'm asking questions. And so I got a hold of some of these bigger companies, and I kind of priced them and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm not quite there yet. But then when I did, as I went on sites like Craigslist, and I found these kind of little dog bartenders that were kind of at my stage, and I contacted all them. And I hate knocking other vendors, but I did not like those Craigslist bartenders, and let me tell you why. A huge, overwhelming consensus from these like 8 individuals that I hit up was make them do it, make them do it, make them do it. You just have to show up and bartend, don't worry about this. And that's not my style. I want people to feel confident that I am gonna bring this in and I'm gonna take care of everything, and that's not what they're about. They're like, don't buy any equipment, don't buy those beverage dispensers, make them do it, make them do it, make them do it. And that's just not, that's not my style. Don't like it, don't like it at all. Yeah, I want to be there. I want you to know that things will get taken care of. It'll be all good.
I like that. As someone, kind of before you got into weddings here, had you gone to a lot of weddings? Was this like kind of before in contact? Like I always think it's like when I shot my first wedding, like I had no idea anything. Okay. So that's why I'm like the worst example of it. So that's why I'm always curious.
No. That's actually a really fantastic question. I definitely have. Yeah, I turned 30, so a lot of my friends have gotten married in the last couple of years, and I'm always fascinated at how bars work, not only at weddings, but anywhere I go. Every time I travel, like when I go to Mexico, the way that their bars operate down there are way different than the way bars operate up here. And so I was like intrigued, but I never really had a serious thought until that event that I did for my friends, and I helped them pick up the kegs and I helped them I really helped. And I was like, oh man, I think I can. That's when I actually was inspired. And I was like, oh man, I think I can take a crack at this. But no, actually being at weddings, I might talk to the bartender, but if it's an open bar, I probably was a little bit off kilter myself, Yeah.
As someone that's gone to Mexico a lot, what do you think the differences are between?
Well, they have a lot of the.
I'm just curious.
No. There's a couple, and it's not. I mean, they overserve a little bit, but that can probably be said about any kind of vacation town or anything. But a lot of them is they have open air bars, so they have to at the end of night take everything down. Here in Washington, we just lock our doors because we don't have open air anything. Because why would we? But I would watch them just have to collapse all the bars down and take all the liquor and put it in a cage, and that was interesting. Service was also different because, as I understand it, I don't know all the logistics, but for certain like tip jobs down there, like in the States, in certain states, if you make tips, you might make less than minimum wage. As I understand it in Mexico or parts of Mexico, if you make tips, like they'll pay you a flat rate, but then they can keep you all day. So they don't pay hourly. They're just like, here's your $40 for the day or whatever, and they keep you all day. So they have just a ton of like servers on staff, but they almost were just... They're not, I'm a very kind of in your face, what you need, what's going on, talk to me, how can I help you? And that's not the service style down there. It's very like you have to ask for the check. They just kind of stay away. It's just kind of interesting. And this is my favorite one. I encountered this many, many times in Mexico, was they have happy hour, same as here. But they have 2-for-1 drink specials, which is a pretty common thing. But you don't get, like, say you or I to go and be like, oh, can we have 2 Mai Tais for the happy hour special? They would give you 2 Mai Tais and they would give me 2 Mai Tais. And it wasn't, you don't split, you don't like, I don't know, I was like, I'm a drinker, so I can't complain. I'll drink 2 Mai Tais. But I always thought that was so funny. That happened to me many, many times.
That's funny. Cool. Yeah, I was just kind of curious about that. So kind of, transition into weddings, like, was it, having done events before, was that like intimidating to kind of like you're building this now, your face, along with them, but like, was that a new thing for you?
It definitely was a new thing. The intimidating thing wasn't actually the bartending itself. I am a good high volume bartender. Like, I'm a nice guy, but I can move a line through. I can get things done. What was definitely intimidating was more of the administrative side about it, because I only got on Facebook a couple of years ago because I became a father. So that kind of social networking and making sure that I paid the insurance on time and making sure that I'm replying back to emails in a prompt manner. When as a bartender, I had a schedule. I didn't have to respond to emails. Nobody emailed me. They just came into my bar, versus now I just have to make sure I'm on top of the emails. And organization has definitely been the most intimidating thing for me. And I'm actually proud of myself. I've taken leaps and bounds of staying on top of that. My son's mom, sometimes I'll say things like, just give me a minute. I got to answer a couple emails. And she's like, I never thought you would ever be the human being to say that, So yeah, the administrative side was a little intimidating. Thank God. Like I said, I have Rosalind. Rosalind has helped me a lot, and she helped me line up my insurance and things like that. So God bless that woman. But no, the bartending thing, actually, I dig it. It's what I do.
Because it is stuff, we've talked on this podcast before about someone might be like a good photographer, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be a good, web designer, or like I can, shoot video, but that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily good at taxes or whatever. So there was like you said, there's so much more that you now need to kind of focus on as well, right?
Yeah, no, that is definitely true. And there are definitely a lot of different types of bartenders learning. There's high volume, there's low volume with more attention to detail. And I love that I can do all those things while doing consultations. I handle a lot of high volume things, but then I'll talk and be like, okay, if you want me to just be me for this crew, you need to understand, you need to let me prep you a high volume menu. And what that means is like these drinks can't be overly intricate, or that line's going to go very, very slow and people are going to get a little bit upset. But if you do want some of these intricate muddled type drinks, Moscow Mules are really popular right now, or any sort of mojito or any tropical thing like that, I can bring on an additional person, or you can just maybe accept that the line's going to take a little longer, or we can kind of figure this out. People just need to work with me. I have, I'm really excited for this one. In a few months, I don't remember the exact date, but in a few months, I'm doing like a 3-day wedding type thing up north. And so we're kind of prepping menus. So we're going to do a mimosa bar one day and then French 75s on another day. And so, but one thing I kind of had to tell her, she wanted those French 75s, which are a little more of an intricate drink. She wanted that to be the initial drink when everybody got there, and it's going to be a huge crowd. And I was like, let's maybe do that another day, because when 200 plus people are going to bum rush, you don't want me making French 75s. Yeah. So figuring out, because like I said, we can make anything happen, but you just kind of need to listen to me and my recommendations, and we'll talk this, we'll talk that, we'll make something happen, anything can happen.
Because nothing more frustrating for me. I mean, we're not a big like classy go out bar kind of, but when you go and you sit for like 15 minutes waiting on, to peel the lemon and, get the essence and whip it around the glass and
light it on fire.
Man, I just want, but it is something to keep in mind, like you said, and especially like with events and being able to do like that high volume stuff, right? Is so you feel like you do a good job, like kind of consulting, your potential clients and kind of letting them know and helping them kind of figure out what they want to serve and how they want to do that.
I do. So I do the consultations. Let me tell you, Reed, if I had a superpower to make you like the perfect shopping list, I would be a millionaire, because there is every venue's different, every family's different. And so I do try and help as best I can. And we talk, like drink calculators and how much of this and how much of that. And do we want this cocktail? Oh, and another one, we talking about Moscow Mules, as Moscow Mules are really popular with the younger crowd now, but they'd be like, that's the only drink we want to offer. And I'm like, well, can we maybe get some cranberry juice or something? Because Aunt Frida does not want a Moscow Mule. She would like a vodka cran. And most people are pretty open and receptive to that once they kind of hear it out loud. That happens a lot in my industry. Is like, I just have to say something out loud, and then people are like, oh, that makes sense. And 9 times out of 10, people are super receptive to it. Every now and then you get that little fight back, and that's fine. It's their big day. So we'll make it work. Yeah.
That's awesome. Why? Yeah. What's the deal? It is like the Moscow Mule now. Why is that the big thing?
Because it comes in a fancy cup. I'm not a big fan of the ginger beer. It is definitely like a drink. Like if you like Moscow Mules, drink Moscow Mules, but it's definitely, Moscow Mules and IPAs, man. Seattle 2019. That's what's going on. The beer is another fantastic one where, we'll talk about things like, do we want to do bottled beer versus kegs? Do we want to do a mixture of both? Where can the money be saved? But a lot of times they'll be like, we got 3 kegs of IPAs. And I'm like, can we get a rack of Coors Light for Uncle Jim? Uncle Jim doesn't want that heavy IPA. And so that's one. And sometimes I got to kind of be like, just get a case of Coors Light. And it's always gone. The case of Coors Light always goes. So that one happens quite frequently, but it's whatever the client wants, just so long as they listen to me a little bit, just listen to me a little bit. I've done this a couple times.
No, it's tough. And I remember when we were getting the alcohol for our wedding, we got married at Salty's, and we,
nice.
So we told them, they helped kind of supply that stuff, but it was the same thing where they were like, they had all these really heavy beers, and we're like, oh, we need like a Corona or something, just something that people, because I'm not going to drink that all night. I mean, and it's my wedding, you definitely have to, it's tough to kind of incorporate that across the board, especially with like beer and wine too, and kind of figuring out, right? Like, I think people always kind of struggle with like figuring out how much of each to get or whatever.
They absolutely do. Yeah. They absolutely do. And that's kind of a heartbreaking one for me, because I try and read them and try and figure it out, but it just sometimes doesn't work. And sometimes the guest count doesn't come out the way they say. And sometimes people don't drive. Can I tell you something? And I love all my clients. This happens absolutely 8 out of 10 times minimum, probably closer to 9 out of 10 times, is so I kind of do these consultations, and they're always, I'm like, okay, so what you guys can, what's this? I'm like, well, 110, but we can drink in that tone and that thing. They're like, our friends are alcoholics. I'm like, okay, let's tone it down and like, let's actually figure this out. And they always want to like, I'm not saying they're trying to impress me, but they're always trying to like make it seem boisterous and big. And then there's just all this alcohol left over, and it kind of breaks my heart. And it's like, if we just took a step back and maybe kind of looked at the dynamics of who's coming in from out of town, are people staying nearby? And that's something I was kind of trying to figure out. I did one. I've had 2 events where the guy's like, no, we drink a lot, and they actually drank a lot. I told them, I was like, no, you guys did work, but they had a lot of things where they were like lining up hotels and shuttle services. So I was kind of trying to assess that versus are people driving. I look at the parking lot. If the parking lot's full, I'm like, everybody here drove, so they might not drink as much. You just try and figure those things out. But we drink, and I'm like, oh yeah, sweetheart, you drink. All right, let's figure it out. You know, no, that was rude. I didn't mean to sound rude. It's just
that's awesome. Yeah. I love that. No, we had my wife's injured, and when my mom and I went in and did the shopping. When we just got back from Maui, and it was the same thing. Like, we came out with this cart of alcohol. Okay. And he's like, what's going on? I said, we can drink.
We can drink. Yeah. If you know yourself, just kind of take that step back and figure it out, and don't get heartbroken if there is extra alcohol. Working with budgets. Oh, so this one happens a lot. Is I'll talk to the bride and groom, and they're fantastic. We click, we do good. And they're like, okay, my uncle or my dad is going to be buying the alcohol as a present. I'm like, all right, how's this going to go? And so then I'll start doing consultations with the uncle or the father or grandpa or whoever, and then they're the ones kind of giving me some static. And do you really think this is going to be this? I'm like, yes, sir. I honestly really do think this is going to be this. And then sometimes there's leftover, and people kind of get frustrated. It's like, well, it's alcohol. You know, somebody will want it. And I also talk to them about places like Costco has really good return policies. Total Wine has really good return policies. So I do try and keep all that in mind. It's just it's not a perfect process. Like I said, man, if I could figure it out, I would never have to bartend again. I'd just be doing consultations, and yeah.
That's awesome. So I want to hear a little bit more about kind of getting into bartending. Did you grow up in the area? Did you start working around here? Are you from where?
Yeah,
where are you from?
So Federal Way. I now live in Northeast Tacoma, but I'm a Federal Way boy, and definitely worked in a few places in there, in Auburn and around. What's interesting, I'm 30 years old now, and I started in the industry at 17. When I started in the industry, I was actually, you know what I was? I was a host, and that was, I was so obnoxious. I try and be high energy now, but now I've kind of toned it down. That was when, welcome to Olive Garden. How you guys doing? People are like, how about you tone it down a little bit there, young man? You're freaking me out. Don't do that. No, so when I started in the industry was at the absolute, like the worst part of like the economy crash. And so a lot of people didn't have jobs. So what I was competing with was I was working with people with master's degrees. I was working with teachers. I was working with engineers who couldn't find work. So they're coming to the restaurant. So I had to fight tooth and nail to move up because they're so great at their jobs. And I'm actually really happy about that, because nowadays I see people like get promoted to bartender quick, and like it took me years. So I've served, cocktailed, bussed. I've worked in kitchens. I've worked front of house, back of house, and everywhere in between. So I had to fight tooth and nail to become a bartender, and I think it made me a stronger bartender. So I see a lot of young girls, and no offense to them, but they get moved to bartender, and then somebody, can you make me this? I'm like, what's that? I'm like, it's a screwdriver. That's a vodka OJ, sweetheart. You should know that. That one definitely happens. But I love restaurants. I love bars. I love the volume. I love the speed. I like the camaraderie. I like my regulars. I love my regulars. And even some of the regulars I hate, I still love you. I'm still happy you come in, even though I hate you so much. No, every bartender has regulars they hate. That if they tell you otherwise, they're lying. And then,
So do you still bartend regularly now?
I do. So in the slow season, I'm actually really, really blessed. So the Rockin' Federal Way, it's the pizza place kind of off Costco. I was their lead bartender for a number of years, and then I decided to take a crack at this. And so what I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen it too, actually, I'm sure the whole wedding crew has seen this, where they want to start a small business and they kind of give the finger to their old job. And they're like, I'm never coming back. I'm going to make it. I'm a rock star. And I absolutely refuse to ever do anything like that. You'll never catch me burning a bridge. So what I did to them is I was like, hey guys, I'm going to step down as your lead bartender. You need to find somebody to kind of replace me, but I'd still like to be on the schedule. I'd still like to be able to pick up shifts because I am a father. I do have house, payments and all that stuff. So they were really receptive to the kind of thought of, me just I help them when I can, they help me when we can, and it works well. So I'm really blessed to have that. What's funny though is that there were a couple people that stepped up and took my spot. So now I'm serving at in the dining room, which I hadn't done in years. I haven't served kids in a long time, and now to help them, I'll pick up shifts in the dining room. I'm the only dude out there, and people are like, what are you doing out here, Bart's? And I'm like, I'm just helping out, But it's good. I'm happy to help them. They help me. The world keeps spinning. So yeah, I got a good little working relationship with them. They've been really supportive.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely was one of the get out of Dodge.
Yeah, tell me.
Oh no, just when you're done, you're done at certain places.
That absolutely, yeah. No. There's nothing wrong with being done in a place and moving on. It's when you think that you're better than a place, and then you have to. And I've seen so many people go crawling back to restaurants. You have no idea. I have a lot of friends that are DJs, and some are very successful, and then some are not so successful, and then they have to go back to work and kind of tail in between their legs, and you won't catch me doing that.
Do you think that continuing to kind of work in the industry and then also do events and stuff kind of keeps you sharp and hungry and kind of more tuned in, where you're kind of doing this dual purpose, and so you're still you're not in this wedding high, you're kind of working both sides, right?
I mean, it definitely kind of keeps me grounded in a sense. It's nice to have that additional income. That's an interesting question.
I know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, especially being new in the industry, I have my prices set so low that I do need to work. So it is nice, but the bills get paid. The ones that I'm always so jealous of is, so being a bartender, I made most of my money on the weekends, and now most of the time weddings are on the weekends. So I'll pick up shifts at the restaurant during the weekdays, but they're just not as profitable as some of those weekend ones. The people that I see just doing phenomenal are the ones that work 9 to 5s, that work the weekdays and then do weddings on the weekends. So I'm just trying to find a balance. Trying to find that balance definitely keeps me grounded. And when I see people that have found that balance, I'm like, I'm so jealous, just, got to make sure the bills are paid and everything like that. And it gets there. It'll all get there. Right now, it being the slow season, I cannot wait for a couple months from now, because I think I have 60 events booked in a 4-month period or something like that. So when that 4 months comes, it's going to be good. But right now, we just got to tighten your belt.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh-huh. What were kind of some of the biggest surprises you've learned going out, starting your own and things that maybe, you thought would be easier or you thought were harder that weren't, or kind of vice versa?
I don't really know. I think a lot of it was money that I'm spending on the back end. So when working in a restaurant, you make minimum wage plus tips. So I would rely on those tips and just kind of let the minimum wage build up. It's almost the opposite of that here. Whereas I might make money, but I'm constantly spending money. I'm constantly getting new equipment, paying for the insurance, paying for brand and marketing things, buying little presents, things like that, and missing shifts. So I think it was just kind of, I knew starting a business would be expensive, but it's just constantly expensive. And a lot of people don't get that about bartending, and they don't mean to be offensive, but they'll do things like, well, you just show up and bartend. I'm like, no, I pay insurance. I pay all these things on the back end that a lot of people don't think about. So that's been kind of an interesting way to try and get a grip on reality, because when I was just bartending, I was working 40 hours a week as a bartender, making really good money. And that was a fantastic life. And people think, they assume all the time now, they're like, ooh, private bartender, you must be doing good. I'm like, maybe in a couple of years, when I go green, it'll all be good. But honestly, I don't let that deter me from the passion at all. If anything, it kind of fuels that flame. It makes me want to book more and more. And even when I get tired and somebody wants to double book and I got to find somebody else to do the job, it's like, no, Ryan, you need to book every job you can. And you need to love every individual you can, because they're the ones that are going to recommend you. They're the ones that are going to pay that bill when that time comes. You just need to get to that time. And that time is coming. And I am good with my money, so that time will come, I think, sooner than a lot of other businesses. I've seen people start restaurants and they wait 5 years until they're in the green, and I think I'll be in the green within 2. So
It's tough.
Keep on trucking, baby.
I know, and I was thinking about that too, like you said, because even like the guys that work under me, like I don't think anybody gets how much, like as like a primary business owner, like how much is constantly like money going in, and or I guess money coming in and then going out, but just that constant, just all the time. It's like I don't think it could be overstated. Just kind of how like you said, you got to book like every single one.
You absolutely do. Well, when I see the stuff, I mean, the setup that you have in front of us, I mean, I own a lot of equipment, but no one piece of equipment is worth more than a couple $100, but I just have so many pieces of little equipment, and I'm looking at these microphones and this board that you have in front of you. I'm like, God bless you, man. Like I'm looking at I'm afraid to even touch it. I have probably a couple G's in front of me right now.
Talking about, so now you're doing weddings here, kind of in the greater Seattle wedding community. Mm-hmm. What has that been like, kind of like networking now into this different world that maybe you weren't in before as much, and kind of like, like you said, doing the wedding show and meeting people and meeting venues and things? Like, do you enjoy that? I mean, obviously you're a people person. Like, do you enjoy constantly kind of building those webs?
I absolutely love building those webs, and I love building those webs when they can become successful. What sometimes gets frustrating, and I try to recognize it, but sometimes other people don't, is that there are people in businesses more successful than me that are simply out of my league, and I'm okay accepting that because that's just part of this growing process. I'll give you an example. Is a regular of mine at the restaurant, a sister, is getting married in Aspen, Colorado, and he is constantly like trying to get her to book me, and I'm like, dude, she doesn't want to fly me to Aspen, Colorado to get me a Mass 12 permit in Colorado. Like, that doesn't make sense. So I love networking, and I love when I network with a caterer or an event planner or somebody, and we sync up because there's so many different realms to wedding. There's low budget, medium budget, high budget, huge budget. I mean, they're, and once you kind of find that niche and that little crew that you work with, and we all kind of recognize each other's strengths and weaknesses, that's absolutely fantastic. Because I've gotten hired, and I've done a good job, but I've gotten hired to a couple of venues, and I'm like, this might be a little out of my league. And I've done good. I'm not saying that I let anybody down. They love me. It's all good. But and then sometimes when I do maybe a lower budget venue or a lower budget thing, I'm like, these are my people. I'm a Federal Way Street kid. Like these are my people right here. But I do love the networking. I love shaking hands. One thing that I do at I've done it since the first event to the event I worked yesterday, and I don't know why other people do it, is I go to every single vendor. I go to the DJ. I go to the coordinator. I go to the caterer. I go to the damn dessert person. And I just shake hands and say, hey, I'm Ryan. If there's anything I can do to make your life easier, let me know, and vice versa. And people really like that. And I'm just surprised it's not a more prevalent thing in the community. I love shaking hands. And even I know I can't help you. That dessert lady, I know our jobs have nothing to do with each other, but it's still cool shaking hands, and still cool, getting to know people and people like that, and leaves a good impression,
No, I totally agree. And I think that's great. And just, reaching out, like, cause I always, try to reach out to people ahead of time too. And like, there's so many, even like videographers, that like, don't, like, they just show up and they don't want to deal. And bartender, I'm like, hey, can I get a water? Like you kind of get, it's like, like you totally would appreciate like somebody like you said.
Oh, for sure. And I'll go out. Yeah. Water bottles, you go to the caterer. Yesterday, the caterer was Olive Garden, and I went to the Olive Garden girls, and I was like, hey, get you guys a soda or a bottle of water. And they looked like I was like trying to hit on them in like a night. Sorry, that's an exaggeration, but they were like, why is this guy? I was like, I'm just trying to be friendly. And they appreciated it, but you could tell they were just used to being treated not respectfully. And I was like, no, like, let's get you a water. It's all good. Yeah. And so when you see that genuine surprise, it's almost like a scared puppy. Like, did somebody do something to you? Like, like what's wrong? It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
It's funny. I just had a quick story when you were talking about feeling out of your league or a little bit. Like, we did a wedding a couple years ago, same kind of deal, and they purchased us at like a charity auction. So they probably wouldn't hire this anyway, but we were whatever
part of the thing. Okay.
And so we're there, and it's like the Four Seasons, and I'm with Tanya with Azura Photography. They're pretty high end, and like I'm sitting there, and they've got a catwalk that they're walking on coming down. Sasha and Shane, God bless them, great couple, and they're awesome. And but like they've got this catwalk set to come down. There's like ice sculptures they're going to walk through. There's like this whole thing, and I'm sitting there with Tanya on the, we're getting ready for him to come down. I said same thing. I said I'm way out of
this is astronomical. Yeah, and I'm sure you did a great job. You kind of look and you're like, I wish I'd have mentally kind of keyed in on something like ice sculptures. Jeez. Okay. Yeah.
But it's just funny. But yeah, like you said, you end up in different spots and then you kind of like, you rise to the occasion and it's like, we can do it. But it's just funny. Yeah. When you see and you're like, I don't know if this is where I was supposed to be today.
Yeah. I love that. Like you said, rising to the occasion. I love rising to the occasion. I love getting to a new venue and being like, oh, like they told me the ice maker was here, but it's on the different. I love solving problems. Problems suck inherently, but I love knowing that I can solve them and I do a good job of solving them. But sometimes you're like, somebody should have told me about this problem. Like I didn't know. Yeah. That's funny.
Talk about, we talked a little bit about like, purchasing and, amounts and kind of trusting you, but like, what are some other things, problems you see arise a lot with like couples in terms of like, bartending or the alcohol or the serving, over service? What are some kind of problem areas you see?
So there's definitely a few. The one I kind of mentioned is like connecting with the bride and groom and then finding out that I'm going to be dealing primarily with somebody else and that person being a little more difficult to work with. One that is definitely prevalent. So at a wedding, everybody is there by invitation. This is not a random thing. And the entitledness, like certain people get entitled that have no business being entitled. And that can be really frustrating. And once again, I use the term Uncle Jim, but he comes up and, I might maybe not cut him off, but I'm like, hey, can Tony, or, we'll try and talk. And he's like, I'm Uncle Jim. Like I supersede you. That's what happens. And I'm like, I actually don't work for you. I work for the bride and groom. And I say it respectfully, but certain people that have no business getting entitled to the bartender, get entitled to the bartender. That can definitely be a frustrating one. And then sometimes you got to kind of put your foot down and say, hey, you're sending up tons of red flags. Like, please, like you're not going to beat me. You're not going to win this. And that's the thing. And they think like that they're going to win this, and there's so many weddings, especially the older crowd. I think the older crowd got away with getting absolutely trashed at weddings. At weddings, people do drink, and they drink when I'm not seeing them. They drink in the morning. They drink behind the scenes. You got to kind of watch out for that. And I think venues are getting a lot more keen on that, and they're aware of that, and they're trying to monitor that. So that's always an interesting one, just trying to stay on top of like the drinking behind the scenes and things like that. And then, some people being entitled that have no business being entitled. Yesterday, the one I went, the groom got a little bit tipsy, but he ended up being okay. But I was like, all right, you're the groom. I know you're not driving and stuff. And if it's okay with your now wife, you might be able to have that one more, you kind of gauge, but that's my job to judge, not yours, Uncle Jim. You do not get to tell me that. And I'll nip it right in the bud. Yeah. We don't have many problems with underage drinking. That's one that I definitely just because I'm very well aware I've had drinks at weddings before I was 21. I think most people have. But the big one is making sure no underage person ever comes up to my bar. If I see somebody, then a discussion is going to be had and possibly shut it down. And I've actually never had that happen. I got a good story for you, and I got permission to tell this one. This happened about a little over a year ago at a wedding that I wasn't even working. It was my buddy's wedding. And his mom, God bless her, goes up to, so it's my buddy, and then he had a younger brother who was 19 at the time, I believe, and his mom went up to the bartender thinking that she was being kind of cute and funny, and she's like, I'm going to get a beer, I'm getting it for, the groom's, you can't send him up, I'm getting it for the groom's brother, he can't, but, and the bartender's like, what the hell, like, why would you tell me that, like, don't, so then it became a big thing. They didn't shut down the bar, but they made it very clear, like that, like, no, so.
Because it's the bartender.
Oh, it's the bartender's, license and everything, and this is my livelihood, and I could lose. What's really scary is that I could lose everything like that. Yeah, like that. So you just monitor and things like that. But I'm trying to think of more problems. Sometimes with the purchasing. Oh, so this is one. Is a lot of times I'll help them build that grocery list, and they're like, "Thank you, the grocery looks good." And then I'll get there, and there'll be nothing. I did an event a couple months back. They were really nice, but man, they didn't listen to anything I said. They wanted the signature drink that was they wanted to be budget friendly, so they're trying to watch budget, but their signature drink had some very, very, very expensive alcohols in it. It had Hennessy and Grand Marnier. So I'm like, okay, that's not budget friendly at all, but fine. That's fine. And then had orange juice, and when I showed up, they didn't bring any ice, they didn't bring any cups, they didn't bring the orange juice, and I had to beg them, Reed. I had to beg them. It was like 115 guest count, and I was like, okay, are we getting any beer at all? And they're like, we don't drink beer. I'm like, okay. As soon as they said that, I was like, all right, I know this is going. So I was like, okay, well, can we still just get like a 30-pack of Coors Light? Just so we just have this 30-pack of Coors Light. It just costs you like $20 just to have it. And they're like, we're trying to be budget friendly. I'm like, but Coors Light is budget friendly compared to that drink. Now take this in. I don't don't know about you, but if I go to a wedding that has an open bar, even if I don't particularly care for the cocktail, I'm going to have that cocktail. And I did the math, and that cocktail ended up costing about $2.50, $3 a piece versus a Coors Light is about $1 a piece. So I tried to talk to them, and I was like, well, for every person that drinks a Coors Light instead of that cocktail, you're saving like $1.50, you know, and they still didn't get the Coors Light, but
and then, then everyone's got to have that drink. And then obviously, and then consumption too, right, goes up too, because everyone's drinking the drink.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, when somebody like wants a Coors Light, because that alcohol content's so low, I'm like, here's a Coors Light, take your time. Yeah. I also do try and get them to have waters and sodas and stuff like that. One thing that I do, and sometimes people be like, oh, you don't have to do that. And I now do it. It's like part of my contract is I set up a water station, and I set up my water station on my bar with cups next to it. So when people are getting a drink, a lot of times they'll also get a glass of water. And that's been a huge thing because people get bottled water, but sometimes somebody doesn't necessarily want a whole bottle of water. They just want like a little splash. And I always set up a water station. I'll always keep it stocked. All that, yeah. And I'll always keep your non-alcoholic stocked. I'll keep caffeine around. If there's a coffee maker, we'll brew coffee, you know, whatever you need, you know.
Keep the party going.
Yeah, keep the party going. Absolutely, yeah.
When you were talking about the groom that was getting a little tipsy, I was laughing that one of my other shooters a couple years ago, it was like a 15-hour day. Like, it was like one of those, like, they booked us for 8 and then it was 10. And then next thing I know, it was like 8 to 10 p.m. or whatever the hours are.
Okay.
And so he texts me and it's like 9:15. I think they're supposed to be done like 11 or 11:30. And he's like, hey man, so they just carried the groom up in the elevator. He's blacked out. And they just carried him up to go upstairs to his room.
Okay.
He's like, I think we're done. And I said, yeah, man, no worries. And so we pack it there, they pack it up, and then I'm editing the footage and I'm seeing like them just pouring in these huge shots over in the corner.
Yeah.
In the video, because I'm going through the B-roll then, after it, I'm editing this.
And you didn't even click on it.
Well, I'm like, no wonder this guy is like, was carried out of here. I mean, this guy was freaking going nutso in the corner,
The biggest one, I need to get a stupid little sign that says this: it's not a race, it's a marathon. It is all about lasting long. And a lot of times people drink, and it's a celebration, so they're getting ready early in the morning and maybe have a couple drinks and then dinner, kind of have a few more drinks. But ladies and gentlemen, it's all for naught if you get weight. You want to have a good time, you want to get that healthy buzz, but it's all for naught if you just black out and it goes south. So it's not a race, it's a marathon. Whatever you got to do to make it last. And a service that I've offered this to everybody, is that if you want to keep anything, I do this for like liquor and stuff too. So say, you bought like a really nice bottle of scotch. You can keep that back there with me, and I won't serve it to the public. I'll just serve it to the VIPs or whoever you deem. But that also goes for things like Red Bull. Like, I understand you don't want to give the whole party Red Bull, but if you want to keep a 6-pack of Red Bull back here with me, I'll keep it cold. You come up, you get a Red Bull, we'll chill for a minute, kind of get you back on your feet. And I don't like it when people feed the groom shots. Like, it's not tasteful. It's fun. But sometimes I gotta be like, guys, like, he needs a minute. He's still got to do a speech. He's still got to, yeah. So that's the big marker, is that after speeches, obviously different weddings have different protocol or schedules, but after speeches, that's when I'm like, all right, now you guys can loosen up. Now the official stuff is done. The papers are signed. It's when people go crazy before the speech. I'm like, man, that was bad. Not a good idea. Not a good idea.
What are some things you're looking forward to kind of in the future in terms of growing, continuing to market, continuing the brand?
So that's a good question. And I'm going to finish out this year kind of the way I am with me and my 4-person crew. And there's kind of 2 ways, and I'll tell you something that I haven't really told anybody. There's kind of 2 ways that I want to either take the business, and I want to go more of that like party on the rocks where I get more licensing and I have the ability to operate a cash bar, and that's still about a year out at minimum. But something else I really, really want to do, Reed, and I think you've maybe kind of picked this up for me, is I really love that all-inclusive feel. Like, I want people to be comfortable. I kind of want to open an elopement business. I actually got ordained. I can marry people. I can marry somebody right now if we wanted. But I want to open up like an elopement style business where you come and you say, different packages, but you come and you say, maybe give me $1,200. I'll write your vows. We'll get a couple bottles of champagne. We'll get some food. I'll have my partner do like some pictures. So you can really, all you have to do is bring yourself in the suit that you want to wear. That's kind of a dream of mine, and I might be able to do both, but it's still just kind of planning and making sure that I find that balance and everything. But on the bartending aspect, what's really great about this is that I'm proud to say that like I'm kind of part of the community now. So even if I kind of tone it down and maybe take down the website or maybe don't spend so much money on this, that, or the other thing, people still know my name out there, and that's been so amazing. People are recommending me. People are saying like hire Rion, and that's just been a dream come true.
No, literally, as you were coming today, I was on Facebook and someone on the thing was looking and a couple different people. And I said, oh, he's coming to my house right now.
What's funny is I think I saw that, but I didn't want to like Facebook and drive. And yeah, I get excited. Sometimes Facebook thing will pop up and I'll be on the road, be like, no, Rion, say for, and all that. But it is cool. It's, and I like knowing it because I earned it. I didn't get there by kissing ass and things. I did it by doing a good job and by making people happy. And I'm proud of that, Yeah.
Is this something that you thought, did you ever think you'd be this passionate about weddings and kind of brides and grooms and kind of doing this stuff?
No, I did not. And people actually ask me that all the time. They're like, oh, like you're heavily involved in weddings. Like, they don't want to get so cheesy, like, oh, you must believe in true love. And I do believe in true love. It's not any concept like that, but I'm like, no, like I just really like working weddings. Like I really like, yeah. I did not think that I get so enthralled, but I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And I love the passion that comes from me that meets with the passion of the bride and groom. And when we just click and it just clicks. And I've hung out with some clients, the clients that I worked with yesterday, they're like, we're hanging out next week. I'm like, all right, sweet. Like, and, so yeah, I knew I'd be passionate. I knew I'd be strong, but I didn't know it was going to happen like this. So,
but you would say it's kind of exceeded obviously what you were hoping for so far.
Yeah, a lot, a lot. And sometimes I get a little bit intimidated by that. And then it's like, no, Rion, you're 30, just buckle down and get it done. Yeah. I did not expect to book as much work as I did. I did not expect it to hit the ground running. And like I said, I've had a great support system. It has absolutely not just been me. It's been the help of other vendors and my friend Rosalind and Ernestine. And, but yeah, it's getting there. And the hope is that it just continues to thrive and continues to grow. And then the people that I bring on all continue to work well. Like I said, every single person, like my little crew, they've all done event staffing and things like that. And they've all worked in restaurants because there are, like we talked about, the different types of bartenders. And I need problem-solving bartenders. And because there are problems that come up with these new venues, you don't know where this is, you don't know where that is. And I need bartenders that keep a cool head. That's a big one. High volume and a cool head. Because it sucks when there's 150 people deep and you just got to smile. Come on, baby, come on. I call everybody baby. Boy, girl, come here, baby, come on. And the daddy's like, I'm not baby. I'm like, I am sorry, sir. I will not call you baby anymore. I'm sorry. Yeah.
One thought I had just to kind of about, in terms of like you and clients and stuff, and you can say I'm wrong too, but like,
please.
When you're working the bar, obviously you have like regulars that come in, but then a lot of times it's kind of like one-offs or you don't see the people, whatever. Like, do you enjoy kind of going on this journey with like the brides and grooms and stuff and kind of being a part of that whole process?
I absolutely do. And then it's so heartbreaking because at the end of it, it's gone. So I do consultations, and a lot of times I do consultations in person, and we build this relationship and I figure out how they met. Do you have kids? Well, and I meet their parents. So that's one thing I'm adamant is I meet the parents, I shake the hands, I meet all the groomsmen, all the bridesmaids. And so I kind of build up this rapport, and then at the end of it, it all just kind of goes away. And that's part of the process. And I totally get it. I don't cry, I don't go home and cry, but, it is kind of a bittersweet thing. So a lot of times I'll maybe try and find them on Facebook or try and send like a happy anniversary, or I just even a little smiley face every now and then, because you same thing. Yeah. You build a rapport with these people and then it ends, but that's part of the game. What's so fun is that I get a lot of referrals, and it's so fun. So I'm going to a wedding from a referral and then seeing a bride and groom that I had done. That makes me so happy. One thing I try and do is once I do a wedding for you guys, the thought of hiring any other bartender for any other family event is ridiculous. They're like, no, we're hiring Rion. And that's something I really try and cultivate and follow through on. And I've had a lot of success with that.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's something that I don't think that a lot of like clients or couples, however you want to forget, is it is like one of the most important days that you're there on this really important day, you're really invested, and then like you said, it's like poof, it's gone, for us, and then you're like, oh my God, no, like you want to kind of like we've been going back and forth for a year, and now we kind of it's done.
Yeah.
So,
well, I want them to know they're more than just a business transaction. I was a part of your life. You were a part of my life. We shared this day together. I did everything I could to make your day special. And they're like, and you did make our day special. And that's a really big one for me. Also, working in restaurants, if something were to go wrong, even cataclysmically to where the restaurant had to get shut, say we run out of something, a piece of equipment breaks, something like that, nobody's day is ruined. They just have to go to the restaurant next door. Versus on a wedding day, if something goes wrong or one of my keg taps breaks, I had a keg tap break. And so I was like Jimmy rigged it together, and it all falls on me. And I love that. But it's also kind of terrifying. But when it all goes smooth and the couple's happy and we clean up and we go home, that's just tops, man. That's good stuff.
Perfect. This has been a really good conversation. I really enjoyed getting to meet you. Thank you so much for coming in, obviously.
Of course.
Scheduling this, bringing in the gifts, the vodka and everything else. If people want to learn more about you, your company, services, what would you have them check out? Absolutely.
So the website is myperfectbartender.com. I do have a Facebook with My Perfect Bartender, though the website is definitely the best way to get a hold of me. One thing that I absolutely am adamant about, and I want everybody that listens to this to know, and you can convey it to your friends, even if you don't book with me, even if I never make a penny off you, if you have any questions on anything, you can always contact me. If I can help, I will help. If you have any questions on licensing, where to buy alcohol, I can even spend a little time helping you make a grocery list off the phone. Even if we never book, I still got your back. I still want your day to go well. And I mean that. I genuinely want everyone's bartending experience in this whole world to go fantastic. So yeah, just get a hold of me. My name's Rion. And even if I have a date booked, I have colleagues and you'll do consultations with me, but my colleague will be the one that shows up day of, and you can talk to my colleague on the phone, make sure it's a good fit. I want everything to go good before I even accept a deposit. I make sure that you feel good about everything. That's really important to me.
Perfect. Yeah. And I will say this will not translate at all because this is an audio podcast, but you do have a good kind of cross arm stand when you're waiting to talk, and it is like a big bartender waiting there behind the bar.
Okay. I appreciate that. I hear you.
But it's like this warm, friendly, like I've got everything under control. So I know that won't translate at all, but I do appreciate that.
I appreciate you saying that. That's too funny. Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, all right.
This has been awesome. This has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week for another wedding vendor interview. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Reed, thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Perfect.
Cheers.